So we were really lucky to come here today because on Wednesdays the museum is closed. But the madam who was running the museum was very, very gracious, and she opened it for us to come in and have a look. This is the Himalayan Tibet Museum, and it holds a lot of relics, a lot of the artifacts from the past. And this is a typical Tibetan tools. This is the different occupations used by the different occupations of the Tibetan people. It's a beautiful museum which explains the different cultures, the ancestors. These are the different kings of the past of Tibet. And this is where the origin of the scripts came, the religious scripts that are now used for the religions of Buddhism and Jain, and a lot of the belief systems from this region. There's so far 14 Dalai Lamas. The current one is the Dalai Lama, who was born in 1935, and this is some memorial to them. In this region, there's two sets of mountains, the Himalayas and the Kunlun, and in between these two mountain ranges is where the sacred place lands with the Tibetan palace, with the holy palaces. And this is where the Holy Lama's residence is, and many of the special relics for that. For the Hindus, Mount Kailash is where Lord Shiva lives, and there are 8 stupas, and the 8 stupas represent lotuses, enlightenment, many doors, descent from God, great miracles, reconciliation, complete victory, and then finally nirvana. A lot of these different belief systems have very similar crossover, because they all come from basically from the same regions. Excuse me. This is really interesting to me because I'm always into medicine, especially holistic medicine. This is basically the traditional Tibetan healing system. Their system is based on the concept of the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. And they do diagnosis based on an examination of the tongue, urine. They take your pulse. A lot of people who go for acupuncture or who go for holistic healing have this. And these are all traditional herbs and natural elements that were used in the healing processes. Things like cinnamon and just basic natural substances found. There's nothing chemical in the pharmaceuticals here at all. And this is a representation of the sacred ecclesiastic dance. This dance was performed for the new monks as a way of welcoming them and to give them a welcome to the monastery. There's 3 basic provinces in Tibet, and this is the typical clothing of those 3 regions. And you can see that even within one region, there's very different styles. In all Buddhist homes, Tibetan Buddhist homes, there's always an altar or a place for prayer and worship, and it usually includes 7 bowls, and the 7 bowls represent the 7 limbs of prayer and the 7 limbs of offerings. And also there's a lamp as well. And it's usually very elaborate. They're always very elaborate because a lot of it is visual stimulation for the prayers. These are just some of the indigenous animals, and here it's really beautiful, the wildlife in this region. There's really an abundance of wildlife, and the wildlife is also part of their reverence for the nature. The history of the music in this area, the song and the music, is also really interesting, and they use very different instruments. These are all the ancient instruments from long ago. A lot of these instruments, we saw a man on the street the other day playing with this Nepali violin, and a modern version, obviously, but these instruments are still played today, and the traditional music. The Dalai Lama that we have now was chosen at the age of 4 in the Kuban monastery in 1939. And he was born in 1935. And he's still very active today and speaking and has engagements all over. And this is really beautiful. This is a prayer wheel. And the prayer wheel holds sacred texts. And basically, it's the same as praying. You can spin the wheel, and it gives the same effect as praying. It's filled with the roll's papers, and it's basically takes away negative energy and helps you to collect wisdom. So this is instead of praying, you can actually just spin this wheel, and it's holding the prayers. And this is a custom that you'll see in many areas in India, in Tibet, in Nepal. And this is a mandala made from sand. These are tiny grains of sand, and it takes hours and hours to produce one of these, maybe with several monks working simultaneously. And finally, this is, in this region, music and dance is really important to their celebration. Brightly colored costumes, it's beautiful. Hopefully we'll get the chance to see a celebration somewhere along our travels, but this is a main part of the Tibetan culture. So we're very grateful that we got an opportunity to come and see your beautiful museum. Thank you so much. We're going to sign the book. Thank you.